You're listening to the Coach's Journey podcast, exposing the struggles and celebrating the successes in the life of coaches who are action takers and creating authentic impact in today's world. Whether you're just starting out, expanding your reach, or exploding your impact, you're in the right place right now. Stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Now, here are your hosts of the Coach's Journey podcast.
There is only one Dr. Sherry.
Thank you. And I would venture to say in Nebraska, are you the only certified high performance coach?
I think there's somebody else in Grand Island. There might be one other person in the state. There's just
I'm in the wrong place. I think there's like 10 high performance coaches I know around me.
You're actually
in the wrong place.
You're in the right place, Coach. Because then I would love to. I mean, I would if I had 10 coaches around me. I'd say let's get together. Let's have a coffee. Let's support each other. Anyway, I would love. I can't wait till we get together. By the way. At some point in our community, CMC, we're going to figure out how to get you all to Nebraska, and I'm going to take you on a retreat. We're going to canoe some rivers. We're going to sit around the campfires, have conversations that really matter. Traveling and spending time in nature are fun and authentic experiences. Are key components to my work. I'm sorry, Dr. Sherry, you were saying about your kids being a priority. Yeah. I went off on this tangent, so.
No, it's just the recognizing and being intentional about the impact in which domains of our life we're wanting to impact and not sacrificing one for the other. And I'm not going to use the word balance because I actually hate that word, because here's how I think of balance when people talk about life-work balance or whatever. Think about one of those like old school legal scales, right? That, where you put something on and the picture of balance implies that they're like this. But that in my own life, I've never been able to keep two things always exactly equally balanced, because what does that even look like? Is that same amount of time in one place or time in another? So I just think, and so I think it's an ebb and flow of how we spend our time, how we, where we put our energy, the kind of impact we are wanting to have, and not that they're mutually exclusive, but yeah, it's just really something. Yeah, I'm working hard at never letting go of the intentionality in all of those aspects.
Perfect. And I don't like the balance conversation either, because what it is, it seems to trigger an instant judgment.
Yeah.
Of, well, something's wrong. Yeah. Something's out of balance. And it reinforces this false conversation that we need to be perfect, which is in balance, and whatever that is, kind of stuff. No, there's certain times I'm way out of balance. And my work is very consuming, and demanding with what I'm doing in the reservation, kind of stuff. And there are days that I'm working, 16, 18-hour days doing stuff. Well, that's out of balance. But it's moving things forward, and then the next day I'll spend a little extra time getting some rest or something, because I know that if I don't take care of my well-beingness, that I crash and burn. So, but the balance things, it invites judgment. That's what I don't like. Yeah, at least for me.
Well, any mainstream idea taking for what it is as a dogma will create judgment, because you're measuring yourself on an idea that's standardized. Doesn't work. Not most standardized ideas individually changes with us. And I look at, and we did a whole conversation, Sherry and I, so definitely watch that episode on balance. But the way I look at it is it's alignment. I think our own internal system says more about that than external thought processes. It's we feel it when we're out of balance in our family and ourself, and we feel our own system. If we're present enough to listen to the communication, we will know that we don't feel good about something internally. We will know that we're off with connecting with our children, with our family. Yeah. And Dr. Sherry, what you mentioned was incredibly powerful. This was one of the decisions I made, because every leader, even amazing leaders that I read in the past, I learned about their history. What I found out was they were under this misconception that they had to sacrifice their priorities for them to make a bigger impact in the world. But I think a lot of the times that backfired. And one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite philosophers, Manly Palmer Hall, he said this, and to this day it's stayed with me. I heard this like over 15 years ago, I think. Like, family is the initiation into the world. Family is the initiation into the world. If you want to know what's wrong with the world, take a look at individual families in the world. Confucius said something similar, is that when families go wrong, it's not long when empires fall.
100%.
And then when we lose sight of that priority within our own circle and we go out there and make a difference, it backfires because we're running away from something. And this is where you find out that it's actually a lot of times easier to go out there and do all sorts of things that we think are making impact than actually dealing with the problems that are right in front of us, which we carry with us.
Yes. I mean, the classic label of workaholism, because we more easily get appreciation, gratitude, accolades from the world, and don't often get that, among your close family. Yeah. And so it's easy.
Or from ourselves.
Absolutely. Or from ourselves, right? If we can't give it to ourselves, and naturally we are wired to go towards what feels good, what, makes us happy. I'm using air quotes again. Happy. Happy. So, without any intentionality or consciousness or awareness around it, we start gravitating towards what feels good, which is the classic definition of any addiction. Is we are having to feed ourselves from something external because we don't feel good, or we're seeking that without conscious awareness that's really actually destructive. And we could go probably on a huge tangent on that, but yeah, our family, our family is the birthplace, literally and figuratively, of our life experiences, and it's such a powerful.
It's a gift.
Microcosm, yeah.
It's a gift.
Yeah, and it just reminds me of a couple other things. The quotes that I heard is like, one spiritual teacher talked about. He's like, "Oh, so you think you've grown and you're enlightened? Go and spend the weekend with your parents or with your close family members. See what happens."
You revert back to the same stupid, petty behaviors, right?
So a lot of our growth actually, and this is like, if you look at simple relationships with our spouse, with our children, that's where the actual growth is. They're reflections of what our challenges are. And it's painful, and there's very little reward as you move forward other than the fact that you're growing most of the time.
So
the reward becomes with the choices you make from the awareness that you gain.
Yeah. And I'm just going to interject something I think that could be super controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Oh, bring it on. We like controversy in this podcast. All right.
Yeah. So, I've been a marriage and family therapist for years and years and years. I don't actively practice in that, but I've got a degree in that, and have done a lot of that. And there was this moment of epiphany. I had a sense, but I was sitting in a church service and a pastor said this once, and it just hit me. And what I was struggling with as a marriage and family therapist is I've got all these couples coming into me saying, "Well, I'm just not happy anymore." And I'm just like, that, is that really what it's about? And the pastor said something to the effect of, and he was just speaking about his own reality in his marriage. He's like, I came to believe that my marriage was not meant to make me happy. It was meant to be one of the most growth relationships I could possibly have, that it's meant to facilitate growth. And so just, I don't know. So the controversial belief that I hold is that, when people say, "I'm just not happy anymore, that's why we're divorcing," I'm like, you're missing an opportunity. I just, there's an opportunity to grow. And I don't know that it's about being happy. Happiness is great. You can create your happiness, but I just think there's a misbelief around feelings that some of these primary relationships that we make decisions based on those, momentary emotions, or when there's an opportunity to redefine, an opportunity to have a different lens, a different framework around the purpose of a relationship. And I don't know. I think I've just seen in my experience that there's a belief around some of those primary relationships that, and the ones that we create. Marriage isn't a primary relationship necessarily. It's one that we choose, that maybe isn't so incredibly helpful.
Yeah, I literally read that in The Power of Now, that statement. So go back to that book. He goes into that area around that maybe your relationships are not meant to make you happy. They're meant to make you grow, and your happiness is your responsibility.
Yes, love it. I took 5 minutes to say what you just said in a sentence.
Well, that's why he's such an awesome coach. Right. And you're an awesome.
I'll give that credit to Eckhart Tolle because I read it in his book, but thank you.
It's an important conversation because it kind of goes back to our relation, what we were talking about before, our relationship with struggle. We want to label something as wrong when we're struggling. And I don't know about y'all, but like in my relationships that I've had and currently with my wife, there is struggle in that. And it can serve as a purpose to help us grow. I love that versus labeling it something's wrong, right? And we're all given that choice. I just find it hopeful to interpret it as an opportunity to grow versus to label it as something's wrong.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's something in this distinction I want to make there, because this somebody might take this completely the wrong way as well, is that you have to define, like we've been taught weird ways of defining happiness. So Dr. Sherry alluded to that, is that a momentary emotion might not be happiness. And this is something that Marshall Rosenberg in his book Nonviolent Communication Workshops, he talks about it. When he talks about it, like happiness is a deeper sense of peace, is a deeper sense of contentment that nobody can give you. That does not come from your relationships, from your work, the things that you have, anything. You will not find that anywhere else. Momentary emotions that you feel are passing. It doesn't matter what they are. It doesn't matter if it's painful, it's light, or whatever it is. They are all fleeting emotions. If we make decisions based on those fleeting emotions, you're going to be running away from life constantly, because that ebb and flow of life is everywhere. You're not going to be able to avoid that. Even if you're secluded on top of a mountain somewhere, you still have to live with yourself, which is the hardest one to live with.
Do you like the company you keep when you're alone?
Yeah.
One thing I do want to say in this conversation at this point, this does not mean you take abuse from people, right? I think that it needs to be stated, if someone is abusing you, not just physically, mentally, then that needs to be addressed, because that's not about happiness. That's about self-love and self-respect. I mean, that's an area that Dr. Sherry could speak to, but I just think that needs to be acknowledged, that what we're talking about is not that. We're talking about the emotional, mental, and spiritual struggles that we have with being in relationship with people.
Yeah. And a lot of times what I've found when people are in abusive relationships, like you said, Dr. Sherry can speak to that, they have gone into the wrong relationship, in the sense that they're not necessarily, when you actually get them to think about it, it's like they got into it for a reason that wasn't their own. They're not in alignment. It's the same reason why people go into careers and jobs and ways of living that has nothing to do with who they are. They've listened to all sorts of outside voices. And there's a lack of alignment there that's creating more and more problems.
Yep. Yeah. Ooh, that's pretty deep.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
And powerful. Nice job.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Coach's Journey podcast.